right, good morning. My name is Wayne Hecht. I am the Director of Operations for Tiger Group, their commercial and industrial division. I'm going to talk to you this morning about a couple of things, as state of the machine industry, the bankruptcy trends, and then I'm going to talk briefly about why it might be a good idea for a dealer to partner with an auctioneer. So first, a little bit about me. I've been in the auction business for over 35 years now. Started in New York, fourth generation auctioneer, worked in the family business for about 13 years, and then I was hired away by an international auction firm, larger firm out on the West Coast. Since then, I've worked for a couple of different auction firms. Also had a stint at Bid Spotter as an IMP, or implementation specialist, and now I've been Director of Operations at Tiger for about 9 years. So here's the first slide. It gives you some interesting trends and some facts. We know now that the demand for new tools is up, and of course we're faced with the delivery and global logistics problem. It's had a major impact on getting new machines. So we've definitely seen a rise in auction values and attendance at auctions. Also, the data is telling us that there's more of a trend now towards automation, the CNC automation, because it's going to be cheaper to run the CNC equipment, takes up less space, you don't have to have the manual labor, and we all know that there's sort of a labor shortage right now with people. And then you have this 3D laser processing, this new technology that's taking place. So definitely we see growth in that space. And again, our auctions, when COVID hit, or the pandemic that we don't want to talk about, when that hit, there was a lot of uncertainty. We were working on some deals, we had bought some deals, and we just weren't sure what was going to happen, if how the attendance was going to be. And it turned out that we doubled or even tripled our attendance at auctions, and assets were selling for what we thought it would bring, or even more. I mean, we were seeing used machines selling for above what you guys were selling for retail. So because of the logistics problem, people needed a machine, and we had one at our auction, and so they didn't care if they had to pay a little bit more money because they couldn't wait. They had to fill some orders. So here's another slide talking about some of the challenges that I just talked about. One of the things we're seeing is that the oil and gas, the equipment for oil and gas is actually up. We've done some auctions, and even though the whole industry as a whole in the United States may not be doing well, but the equipment side of it has been going up. We've seen that. Also aviation, equipment used for aviation aerospace, that's going up, and automobiles. Even though there's a shortage in cars, as you guys know, it's tough to get a new car now, dealers are low in inventory. The equipment that makes automotive parts is hard to find, and we see that industry is going up. Personally, I think it's just the fact that everybody was cooped up, for a year and a half. And as most of you flew here, the planes were pretty full now, as opposed to back in 2020 when I was flying, I'd be the only one on an airplane. So you see that's going along. So again, some more information. What the data is telling us is the CNC side of the metalworking is going up. It's talking about a 7.5% increase from 2021 to 2028. Take a look at that slide, you see how it's been generally going up, and again, as I talked about, there's some verticals that are expected to do real well over the next couple of years. And these are some other verticals that Tiger deals with. We're pretty big in the brewery side of things. So we've been seeing a lot of breweries come up for auction, brewery equipment. I think maybe, there's all those microbreweries around everywhere. A lot of them are shutting down. But the auctions for brewery equipment are doing very well, and that's because of the crossover of the equipment. You have the stainless steel tanks, all that processing stuff can be used in other industries. It could be used for, this popular hard cider that's real popular now. I think even Bud Light has now come out with one of these carbonated beverages, these malt beverages, kombucha. All this equipment that made beer can now be used to process kombucha. In fact, we just did West Coast Brewing Company. We ended up selling it in bulk to a kombucha manufacturer. Then food processing. Even through the pandemic, people had to eat, so food processing equipment that stayed really strong. We did an auction on Long Island in New York, Costello Foods.
David's here. David just came in. Hello, good morning, everybody. Wow.
So we did that sale on Long Island, and it happened right as New York shut down. I mean, New York had the National Guard at roadblocks. You couldn't go in or out of New York, right? And we did an auction in the middle of that, and again, we had to be out of the building, so we were a little nervous, you know, who's gonna show up at this auction. And it was amazing. I mean, we had over 300, you know, registered bidders for this auction, and the prices went through the roof. Obviously, we were faced with some logistic problems, getting trucks in and riggers in and stuff like that, but we got through it, so it was really good. Textiles, we do a lot of textiles. Textiles in the United States is just continuing to go down. I mean, there's no new textile manufacturers really opening up in the United States. Everything is overseas. Over the last year, we did Polar Tech, Malden Mills, did Double Tex in Canada, and most of the textile equipment went overseas. So that's what we're seeing with textiles. Plastics, we don't do a lot of plastics, but plastics has been rising, but the supply chain has caused some delays. And then what we're seeing, they're expecting resin prices to start increasing by next year, because resin had gone down, but they expect it to start going up. Finally, woodworking. So lumber prices had gone up during the pandemic, but the raw lumber is falling. But the issue is with supply. As you may or may not know, there's a lot of shortage of finished lumber. You can't get trusses made quick enough. You can't get 2x4s for building, for housing. Things are still, it's tough to get. Again, it's because the plants had shut down and they're just starting to start back up, and they're trying to get employees in there to do the manufacturing. And with the trend that's been going on with woodworking over the past couple of years, the American-made machines, their value is increasing because of all the cheaper Chinese and foreign imports coming in. And here's just a slide on the bankruptcy trends, and it's sort of what to be expected. You can see that 2021 bankruptcy is considerably lower, the filings for bankruptcy considerably lower. Some of it had to do, the courts were closed. They actually came out with I think it was like a Title IV for Chapter 11s. It's a quicker way to file bankruptcy, to get through the bankruptcy process without having to go to court so much. And I also think some businesses have survived because of PPP loans, and also they're getting money from the government. There's even some cities, like my local city is actually giving businesses money so they would stay afloat to keep them going through what's been going on. And the last thing I want to talk about is the benefits of partnering with an auctioneer. So there's a couple of benefits. One of them is the financial benefits. So there could be a deal that you're looking at, and one of your old customers or a referral that you got, they're looking to sell their business and you want to buy it, and maybe you don't want to spend all the money and put that money out there. So you can partner with an auction firm that maybe has deep pockets, and they can just pay cash for that. You guys can partner on it. Also, it's spreading that financial risk. Even if you have the money, you may not want to absorb, put up $5 million of your own money, and so you'll get an auctioneer that can do that. Also, auctioneers, a lot of them have, like Tiger, we have in-house counsel, so they'll help you navigate if it's a bankruptcy or receivership or an assignment for benefit of creditors. We have experience in dealing with those situations. Also, receivables. You might look at a deal that involves receivables. Some auction firms have a receivable division. And then finally, real estate. You might find a business owner that owns the real estate, has receivables, he's in an assignment for the benefit of creditors, and it's worth $20 million. So you may not want to get involved in that, but you can call an auctioneer that has experience doing that. The other factor is the industry knowledge. So auctioneers are going to have a different customer database than you may have. One of the things is you guys, your deal is in certain types of machines, and your machines, and as an auctioneer, I'm not going to pretend that I know as much as you do about those machines. But if you go walk a plant, there might be some other equipment there that you're not familiar with. There could be warehousing equipment, pallet racking, forklifts, rolling stock, IT stuff, just different stuff that you don't see every day. And so having an auctioneer partner will find value in that deal for you, even when you're walking the deal. So you can, get a better chance of getting that deal. Also, auction methods. So I know there's some dealers that do online auctions, but with an auctioneer, you can now do an on-site auction. You can do a hybrid type auction, webcast auctions. So it just opens up just more methods of selling for you. And also licensing. So some states, even if you do an online auction, like North Carolina, if you do an online auction, if the equipment's in North Carolina, you must have an auction license. So, and there's some other states like that. And so many auctioneers are licensed in multiple states, or maybe even the state where the equipment is. So you might want to think about partnering with an auctioneer for that reason. And then, like I said, finding value. Auctioneers, they do this every day. They're doing auctions, maybe an auction a week, auction a month, but they do this every day. And whenever they've sold something, they've collected all that data. So they have this historical data of knowing what the equipment's bringing at auction, which, auctions might be a little bit different from what you're selling on the retail side. And so they have all the historical data. And finally, which I think is probably the most important thing, maybe the reason to partner with an auctioneer, is for operations. So again, you guys are dealers, machinery dealers, you know your equipment, you know how to refurbish it, you know all the parts that go with it, all the tooling that goes with it. But an auctioneer, they know how to do an auction. We know how to set up the facility, not just the CNC machines or the presses, but all the pickups, what we call, the forklifts and pallet racking, conveyor systems, plant support equipment, compressors, air dryers, HVAC stuff. We know how to deal with that stuff so we can set up the auction and do a really good catalog. Taking the photos, we know how to take the photos for an auction. Riggers, auctioneers usually have a stable of riggers that they've dealt with before that they're very happy with. So they have resources to get riggers in, make sure that they're insured, get their certificate of insurance and things like that. And then removal. So removal is not just watching the rigger come in and pull the machine out. So, my guys are trained to make sure that all the bolts are cut flush to the floor, all the oil is picked up and cleaned up. If there's any penetrations that are caused through the ceiling or the walls, my guys make sure that it's repaired properly. Sometimes you're required by the landlord or a trustee or any client to broom clean the building. So auctioneers have experience and resources to make sure that building is broom cleaned before it's turned back over to the landlord. And then finally, marketing. So, marketing an auction is a little bit different from marketing, a couple of machines as a dealer. So there's different outlets that auctioneers use that maybe dealers don't use or don't know about. So some of the guys that Tiger's partnered with are here today, so I thank them, and maybe I can look forward to partnering with some more of you guys. And then I'll take any questions if you have them. Andy?
You mentioned vehicle values at auctions have increased, and we know with the new vehicle supplies being down, that a lot of new dealers are out there at auctions buying up. Have you seen a large influx of new car dealers at auctions buying up?
So I personally haven't seen it. We don't do a lot of car auctions. We did bid on actually a dealership up in the Northwest that we were putting bids on, and we thought we were being pretty aggressive, and we lost it to another dealer who came in and we thought paid over market value for the dealership and the car inventory. And I can tell you that, again, we don't do car auctions, but we do sell companies that have fleets, rolling stock, and the vehicles have been doing really well. I mean, I don't think they're being bought by dealers though. I think it's just other.
Do you have an idea percentage, how much they've gone up in, just the rolling stock in general from what you've seen in the past?
It's
just general.
probably at least 20%, really. I mean, equipment value, everything is just going up because you guys know you can't get new equipment, right? And so if somebody has a contract to produce something, they need a machine to do it, and they go and they look and they can't find it anywhere, and then they see an auction advertised, they're gonna go and try to buy it from the auction. I hope that answered your question. I know. Anybody else? All right.
Thank you.